Welcome back to News and Views. I'm Jo Bluin, your guest presenter, and I am delighted to have one of my favorite people on the show with me today, Sunny Morgan, who is anyone who's in the climate space will know Sunny Morgan, who has tirelessly fought for climate issues, who has consistently reminded us that things like war and genocide are not separate from the environment. And I am just absolutely delighted to have Sunny with us today. Thank you for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me. I always like to be on Salam Media's programs, and I'm happy to talk about the climate. Yeah, it's one of my passions.
Thank you, Sunny. So now we hear a lot about the military fallout, the human fallout of massive wars and of genocide, and now I want to kind of so we've there's the effect of the U.S.-Israel war on Iran is triggering a climate catastrophe in many ways. Can you talk us through the kind of nexus between war and the environment?
Yeah, so war is a major contributor to emissions. In fact, the military-industrial complex worldwide is the largest emitter. They emit more than any of the other countries. So climate emissions from war are like devastating for the environment. In fact, it's now reached a level where war is responsible for ecocide. I just recently watched a film by the journalist Abby Martin, and it was entitled Earth's Greatest Enemy. And basically, it highlighted how devastating the military-industrial complex is and how protected it is as well. Lots of people don't know that the UNFCCC, the United Nations Framework for Climate Change, measures global emissions, right? And there's a negotiation every year called a COP, or the Conference of the Parties, held in different countries around the world. The last COP was in Brazil. It's actually entitled the Amazonian COP. But the influence of the military-industrial complex, lobbyists, and oil extractive executives are very, very well represented at these fora. There's probably around 700 negotiators from different countries. There are about 750 lobbyists. They were so powerful in the last negotiation that the word fossil fuel did not appear in the final declaration for a conference that has to talk about canceling global emissions. That's how powerful the military-industrial complex is, and of course, it affects everyone everywhere on the planet. In the war in Gaza, one of the crimes that must be added to the litany of crimes committed by the Israeli regime is ecocide, devastating the land, poisoning the water, making it impossible for agriculture to grow. Disease will proliferate, animal and insect life destroyed. This is a war on humanity. This is how what we have to reference when we obviously mourn and obviously cry for the loss of human life, but we must also think about the environment. Humanity is at stake here.
Thank you, Sunny. I mean, that's a very sobering series and I've got many follow-up questions. The one that I want to ask you about Gaza specifically, if I may. So you're talking about ecocide as a kind of accompaniment to genocide. What is the situation there? Because you've also got a siege that is not allowing goods and food supplies to enter Gaza. So now, are you saying that there's an agricultural block as well as a siege affecting?
Yeah. So this war has many layers. This is the military war. So it's to kill as many people as possible. It's a genocide, of course, to displace as many people as possible, but also to destroy all avenues and all symbols and all methods that people can use to recover. So destroy the land so that you can't plant, destroy all the water sources. The upwards of 90% of groundwater is not drinkable in Gaza. So we are talking about people having to find methods to do desalination from coastal water. Normal groundwater is unfit for human consumption. The ground is going to be so toxic from the chemicals that have been left behind by munitions that you won't be able to plant food. So the two, I mean, these are essentials: water and access to food, right? Access to energy is also being destroyed because, of course, all forms of energy infrastructure has been destroyed. Solar panels, what we will call Jojo tanks, right? Water tanks, all destroyed. But the long-lasting impacts of the war will be that the land will be unusable. Some estimates say for generations, but at least for the current generation, the inability, what we're going to have to see in the rebuilding at some stage is different methods to recover. So I suppose greenhouses will proliferate, but naturally planting on the ground will be impossible in some cases. The olive groves that have stood for hundreds of years and is the lifeblood not only of some of the economic income for some of the families, but the cultural identity of the area, that also is going to be destroyed. So when I say that the war operates on multiple levels, it's the military war, it's the psychological war, it's the environmental law, and it's this massive ecocide being committed. Waterways, agriculture, biodiversity, all of those impacts, we are seeing it play out in Gaza. It will play out as well in Iran. One of the things that the U.S. Military did is to bomb all of the storage tanks. So for a couple of days, it literally rained down oil. And oil is highly toxic and noxious. So basically, some of the chemicals inhaled by the people in the immediate vicinity of that explosion will suffer from cancers for a generation to come. This is all part of the kind of effects of war that we don't really think about, because we almost think about the environment as something secondary, but it's very tied. It's the apex crime to kill humanity, to kill the environment, because war is profitable. They want to do as much damage as they can today, whether it's the military industrial complex, whether it's selling munitions, whether it's destroying the building so that you can repay it later on or rebuild it later on, as in Trump's Riviera plan for Gaza. All of that is all of those points are connected and everything is interrelated. But none of that will come to any fruition if ecocide reaches its ultimate aim, which is the complete destruction and unusability of the land. So it becomes a massive concrete jungle just for buildings and parking.
I think that's so. Thank you, Sunny. I mean, this is the kind of levels of barbarism that we're talking about, and when you think about the genocide, and then you're adding ecocide to that, and the complete destruction of the environment. Before we go to a break, I know you're also involved in the movement for debt and reparations. How do you see environmental reparations fitting into this question?
Very important. There's a conference taking place in April. Because of the failure of the COP conference in Belém in Brazil, Colombia and the Netherlands undertook immediately after COP30 to hold another conference, which is happening in this April. And that conference is literally going to answer the question that COP30 failed to answer, which is, what do we do about the phase out of fossil fuels? And remember, this is highly connected to the environment and to the climate crisis. So a number of activists will do a flotilla as part of, similar to the GSF flotilla, this is going to be called the Climate Justice Flotilla. It's going down from the Dutch island, Caribbean island of Saint Martin. It will flow down to the ABC Islands, which is in the Caribbean, and then ultimately make its way to Santa Marta in Colombia. And this conference output is going to be basically a treaty to phase out fossil fuels. But primarily, we had to make some demands, and I was part of. I'm part of a group that are providing some information and some initial text for the ultimate treaty. We're hopeful that our demands will make it into the final treaty. And one of the demands of that is climate reparations. The global north, the oil extractivists, and the military-industrial complex that caused the ecocide that is prevailing in the world today are going to be made to pay for the damage. So ecocide has the other side of ecocide is you have to pay for the damage that you've done, and we are going to hold those responsible for the damage, and that's going to be climate reparations, and it can take various forms, but the central demand of that treaty must one of the central demands must be that there must be climate reparations.
Such an important point. I'm going to take a short break. We're with Sunny Morgan, a well-renowned climate activist, talking about climate reparations, ecocide, and the environmental fallout of war. Thank you very much. You're with Salam Media.
Across Sudan, starvation is tightening its grip. With rising food prices and widespread malnutrition, 8.7 million people are now facing emergency or famine-level hunger. As the conflict intensifies and aid routes narrow, families in Sudan are running out of options and time. The Al Imdad Foundation is delivering life-saving humanitarian aid to those most at risk. Stand with Sudan. Donate online at alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness, and every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and freezer card calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031 208 9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
With Ashraful Aid this Ramadan, your zakat changes lives. It feeds families facing hunger, restores dignity to those in need, and brings hope where it is needed most. From food relief to essential support, your zakah reaches communities with care, transparency, and impact. Give with confidence, give with trust. Make your zakah count this Ramadan. Give your zakah to Ashraful Aid and help change lives today.
The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "Use the black seed, for indeed it is a cure for every disease except death." This Ramadan, honor that guidance. Tip Black Seed supports your blood sugar during fasting, boosts immunity, sustains your energy from suhoor to iftar. Available at leading pharmacies. Tip Black Seed, your golden drop every day.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042-203-1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
This Ramadan, please consider donating to the Islamic Dawah movement. For over 45 years, IDM has built over 80 masjids and distributed more than 160,000 Qurans in 8 local languages. IDM has installed over 250 boreholes and water wells. Over 1,000 children are fed daily, building strong Muslim communities in disadvantaged areas.
You are listening to Salam Media live from our headquarters in South Africa. This is Salam Media, keeping you company this Ramadan.
Good morning and welcome back to News and Views with Salam Media. I am with well-renowned stalwart of environmental activism and dear friend Sunny Morgan, who is talking to us really about the barbaric and horrifying effects, climate catastrophe, fallout of war and militarism and genocide. We've just heard some really sobering thoughts about the absolute attempt to totally destroy the environment and make it uninhabitable, non-arable. So thank you so much, Sunny, for being with us today for this very important conversation. Sunny, I wanted to pick up on something that you've said to us. So you mentioned about COP and the difficulty of getting fossil fuels into the text. I know you were there in Brazil, so can you tell us a little bit more, offer your reflections on the experience?
Yeah, that was an interesting experience. It's not the first COP that I've attended. I attended the one in COP27 in Egypt. COP28 was in Dubai. COP29 in Azerbaijan, in Baku. And this COP in 2025 November was touted as the Amazonian COP. And it was the 30th COP. So there was a little bit of a high expectation around what the COP was going to be delivered. It's in the Amazon, so one would have thought that deforestation would have been a major outcome of the COP, but it wasn't. So two things were not achieved there. In fact, it was a dismal failure if you look at it from a lot of ways. One was that fossil fuels didn't make it into the text, which is just abhorrent, actually, because of the influence of the fossil fuel industry. And neither did deforestation make it into the final text. The idea that indigenous livelihoods, the Amazon, the lungs of the earth, together with the Congo Basin, would be protected was just a given. Everybody went into this negotiation thinking, well, those two things are really, really necessary. And it builds on previous COP. In COP 25 in Scotland, I think 25 or 26, there was some expectation, and it's just been building up that eventually we'll use the words phase out. In COP27, it was about the discussion was between whether we use the word phase out or phase down. So that means we had recognized. So this COP, not to even mention the words fossil fuels in the final declaration, is actually shows that the entire negotiations had collapsed. So from that point of view, as a climate justice activist, totally devastating, right? But all of the activists warned us even before that COP has become a talk shop for the military-industrial complex, for the extractivist movements, for the global oil lobby. So it serves no purpose anymore. What has to happen is that civil society, indigenous movements around the world, other organizations need to take the lead. The upcoming conference in Colombia is a step in the right direction, that it may do that. The next COP is in Turkey. That's number 31. And number 32 will be in Ethiopia. Now, in some way or the other, I've noticed the trend from the COP after Scotland. The Scotland COP was actually, there was an occupation of the COP. Activists broke through the barriers and actually occupied the COP. And I think that sent shockwaves through the establishment. So from 26, they started to tighten the screws. And it's my casual observation that since then, the COP has been in repressive regimes. highly militarized, less open to civil society, more militaristic, and more powerful about the vision of the extractivists. The branding was. I went to the South African stand to see that it was Exaro and Cecil sponsoring these things. So I don't hold out much hope that the cops will be very, 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 very effective unless we reclaim it. And there's no sense that in Turkey it will be reclaimed. But yeah, we remain hopeful. Otherwise, we die from depression.
Hope is a discipline, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So tell me, I mean, this is fascinating. So the kind of internal dynamics, you're seeing lobby groups pulling out the term fossil fuels, but you are seeing a kind of push from you mentioned indigenous activists, civil society. We just had our previous guest speak about solidarity is our currency in Africa, which I thought was a really beautiful way of talking about it. Can you give us a bit more of a picture of the groups and that are pushing against this kind of corporatization or militarization of environmental issues?
Well, in South Africa, we have a strong movement, but there are movements around the world. And indigenous movements especially are finding their voices. Movements like La Via Campesina, which is a farmer and peasant-based movement. There are movements, all the traditional NGO type movements, Greenpeace, 350, all of them play their role. The African Climate Reality Project in South Africa, or African Climate Reality, the Climate Reality Movement, worldwide, backed by Al Gore. Everyone plays their role, but organizations on the ground, communities affected, affected communities that are on the front lines of the struggle, who are victims of extractivism, of oil exploration, of the pollution of the air, the devastation of biodiversity, or just simply, when we talk about all of these highfalutin words, sometimes we don't bring it down to the lived experience of a person. When we talk about ocean sea level rise or ocean acidification, we need to basically be able to say to a coastal movement, your fish will die and you'll go hungry. Your fish is not just your food, it's also your livelihood, it's your way of life. So that will die. Sea level rise sounds like an academic term, but it means people who live on the coastline will be inundated by water. They'll become refugees. When we talk about deforestation, we'll say those indigenous communities who live inside the Amazon or the Congo Basin, or the role that those two, we refer to that as the lungs of the planet, right? The Congo Basin and the Amazon being poisoned. So it is the people who are the victims, who are on the front lines, and it's who will become the earth defenders. This is what we also call for in all the demands that we make, is that it needs to be a special category of defense of the earth defenders, on those who are giving their lives. Movements here in South Africa that do that. It's key that we listen to them, because they're on the front line. They tell us first. They're the litmus test, right? They're the first community. They'll tell us the effects of ocean acidification, of sea level rise, of biodiversity loss, because they'll be able to say to you, I can see this. My culture, my spiritual reason for living is being affected, because the ocean is very, very important, not just to our coastal communities, but to coastal communities around the world. So in the final analysis, we'll have to go back to our traditions and our traditional sense of connection to the earth. That's what we have to reestablish, because profit eradicates that, right? So capitalism doesn't want us to have this emotional tie to the land, or to our spirituality, or to humanity. They want us to have a tie to the corporate profit motive. We must love Coca-Cola, we must love McDonald's, we must love Nike, we must love Adidas, right? We mustn't love the earth, we mustn't love the fish, we mustn't love nature.
Sure, Sunny. I think what's fascinating, you've tied the environment into war, into our spiritual places, into our food places, into our places of livelihood. There is so much here. I could ask you questions for hours, but I am conscious that we have to wrap up soon. So I just want to ask one final question, which is that if I'm a South African sitting at home listening to Sunny Morgan on Salam Media, how can I get involved in this enormous task of protecting, of what did you say, being defenders?
Defenders.
Yeah.
So it's very, very important, right? One of the ways that we can make the biggest impact, and it's going to sound counterintuitive, is to consume less. So be conscious about where you buy your stuff. Be conscious of all the plastic waste. We're lazy. We forget our shopping bags at home. So we tell the cashier, okay, just give me 2 plastic bags. If you look in everybody's boot or in everybody's cupboard, they have hundreds of plastic bags. So plastic bags is one issue, right? So just be more conscious about your levels of consumption. You don't have to buy every piece of plastic, every piece of junk from Timo and Shine and all of. You think it's like cheap, but it has a global emissions footprint. It has to come from a factory in China or a factory in India. So just be more conscious as a shopper and as a consumer, right? And then obviously we make it quite easy for you in the solidarity movement. We give you a list of companies to boycott. So pay attention to the value of your own money and where you spend it. Do it for Palestine, do it for Gaza, do it for the Congo, do it for Sudan, do it for Cuba, do it for Venezuela, but also do it for the environment and do it for your home. Your home is this planet that we need to be protected. We are running out of time. We literally have, you can't say it often enough, that if we don't correct our ways in a matter of like a year or 2 or 3, it's going to become irreversible. And if it's irreversible, we may not be able to say that we'll have a livable planet in a generation. In 100 years, your grandchildren, Joe, my grandchildren.
Yeah, I mean, you and my mother there.
Yeah, for sure. We are creating our own existential risk, and if we don't wake up, it'll be too late.
Sobering words to end with from Sunny Morgan, climate activist. If we don't wake up, it will be too late. So now, before we conclude the show, we have fired up, developed to a level of unconscious habits. Hafiz Imran Chinara, personal excellence mentor and CEO of African Muslims Agency. Hashtag AMA Ramadan 2026, Ramadan 2026, Salam Media. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. Ramadan Mubarak.